Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Chris, and in today's video it is Thrifted Thursday, and this is hosted by my friends Joanna's DIY Life and Sabrina's Craft Nanigans. So if you're not giving them a follow, they are in my description box, so make sure to go give them a follow and check out all the lovely creators in this playlist. So let's begin with our project. I've got this washboard, and would you look at it? I don't know what they were thinking when they styled this, but it needs some love. I picked this up at an estate sale online auction. It came in a big old lot of items that I had bid on, and well, I saw this and I thought, ooh, I love washboards. So let's go ahead and figure out where to begin. So it looks like they just decoupaged some paper on one side. The other side has those felt flowers glued on there. I'm going to start by spraying some cleaner down on top of this paper and grab me a little scraper, and I'm just going to start trying to scrape some of this paper off, hoping that that cleaner is going to help kind of soften it up some. It was a pain in the butt, I'm not going to lie to you, but you know, it's coming off slowly but surely. So I do scrape and scrape away. And this was about as much as I can get with that scraper and cleaner. So I'm going to go ahead and rub some Goo Gone all over it and see if I can't loosen up some more of that. And when I get that down, I think my area was still a little wet. I don't know if that prevented the Goo Gone from doing its thing, because normally I don't have too much trouble with getting the Goo Gone to work, but it was not wanting to do anything. Nothing at all. So got tired of messing with that. So I went ahead and cleaned the surface again to get some of that Goo Gone off, and grabbed me a 120 grit sandpaper and just started sanding away. Man, if they would have only painted this any other color besides red. Red always makes the biggest mess. It's like it stains everything the dust touches. But anywho, I'm just going to sand and sand away. Now, as I was sanding this, it started exposing the original words on it. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a vintage washboard. And oh my gosh, people pay good money for this stuff. And I thought to myself, well, I wonder if I can't get this to where the wording is showing, because they burned those words into the wood. So I changed my sanding down to a 220. So I was hoping not to sand into any of the letters, the original letters. And I just kept working at it. I just kind of kept sanding at it. And like I said, the wording is burned into the wood. So I had a little bit of forgiveness there as far as my sanding was concerned. But I just decided to go ahead and sand and sand and sand. All right, so I did go ahead and put some painter's tape around the metal part of the washboard because I didn't want to get my paint on. There was already enough red on that. I had to figure out what I was going to do there. But would you look at the words? This is as much as I could get. I tried a little bit of paint thinner. I tried a whole bunch of stuff, and my hands were getting tired, and I was like, well, you know, that kind of stinks that I've got this beautiful vintage washboard and I can't get it down to its original state. So I am going to go ahead and grab my 2-in-1 primer from Paint Couture, and I am going to go over the red, and I do 2 coats of this all over the wood part of the washboard, front and back. All right, got the primer on. It is dry, and I am going to grab Fancy Farm Girl from DIY Paint, and this is the first time I'm using this. I have a lot of greens. Apparently, I really like green, and I do. So I'm going to go ahead, and I am going to paint the outer portions of the wood with this color. I do not want to paint the very center top where all those words were. I have other plans for that, so I am going to paint that all the way around. And after I got 2 coats of paint on and let it dry, I went ahead and printed some images off of Creative Fabrica And I went ahead and printed on tissue paper. I haven't done this method in a while, and I really wanted it to look flawless, like, you know, it had been painted with the letter part anyway. And I had 2 of them that I printed out, and I will put these images in my description box if you're interested. It'll be under the Creative Fabrica portion. But I'm going to go ahead and cut these out, kind of get an idea of how large. I am going to make this 2-sided. I don't know that I've said that yet. So one of these images is going to be for one side, and the other for the other side. Hence the word 2-sided. I know, girl, we know what 2-sided means. But anyway, I am going to lay this down, and then I'm just going to kind of crease it where it's going to fit. And I know that the sides are not going to be long enough to cover the whole inside. I could not get this image size to this unless I uploaded it to Cricut. I'm sure I could have done it there, but I couldn't get it on Creative Fabrica. I'm sorry, I couldn't get it on Canva. I don't pay for Canva. I use their free version, so that's probably why. And then when I printed it, I tried to print it with my settings on my printer, and the closest I could get, I think this was like a 4x6, maybe 3.5 by something. I don't remember exactly. I'm just going to trim the bottom and top perfectly straight across because they're going to pretty much touch, as you see there. And then as far as the sides, I'm just going to go ahead and take my water pen, and I'm going to use that to remove the left and right side, just hoping it will kind of blend in there a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to grab that paint color again, and since my photo won't go off to the sides, I'm just going to fill in the sides. I'm just going to put a couple coats of that on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my water pen, and I'm just going to remove the excess paper from the sides with that. I'm just hoping this method will help it blend in a little bit better with that green paint. Now, since I've got that green down, I want to make sure I get all the white off. Otherwise, that's really going to stand out. And with what I end up doing at the end, I think this might be a little pointless, but anywho, we're going to go through the steps that I did. And like I mentioned in the beginning, this is a collaboration of Thrifted Thursday, hosted by Joanna's DIY Life and Sabrina's Craft Nanigans. And I want to thank these gals for having this playlist. I love Thrifted Thursday. That's what my channel pretty much is all about, is makeovers and upcycles. Every now and then, you know, I might have something from the Dollar Tree that I want to make into something, but not too often, but sometimes there is that. I like to just DIY. I hope you guys are with me there. All right, once I get that paper all situated and ready to be decoupaged on, I am going to grab my Simply White from Paint Couture first, and I'm going to go ahead and where I've got that white primer down, I'm just going to paint over that with this color. I just want to make sure that what didn't get covered up by my primer is not going to be able to be seen through my decoupage. And I'm afraid if I don't put this white paint down covering that all up, that will happen because I used the tissue paper and the tissue paper is thin. And then I'm going to go ahead and I dried that down with my heat gun to speed up the process. And now I'm going to grab my DIY Clear Liquid Patina, and I'm going to go ahead and put a coat all over, and then to speed up this process, I will also use my heat gun. And once I got that dried, I am going to grab my paper, and I'm just going to line it up and place it down. And once I got that where I want it, I'm going to grab some parchment paper, lay that over the image, and grab my mini heat press and just press that on. And this is just going to reactivate that clear liquid patina, making it sticky once again and making our paper nice and smooth. And once that's down and I let it cool down, I don't want to put any paint or anything on top of it when it's hot. but I'm going to grab me one of my little daubers. I'm going to grab the Fancy Farm Girl, and I'm just going to daub around those sides of that paper, just helping that look a little bit more blended. And then I also grabbed a small paintbrush because that dauber, it was really hard to get in the corners and also right around that paper like I wanted. So that paintbrush made it a lot easier. And I'm just going to dry it down with my heat gun. I'm waiting for my heat gun to give out. I use this thing. This is probably my most used crafting tool. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and flip it onto the other side. And I'm going to pick out which image I want, and I like this fluff and fold one the best. So I'm just going to grab my little X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to go around the edges, just trimming that off. I'm just going to use this whole sheet right here and just fill it in. And I know I could have made a stencil, but this was so much easier. And then we're going to do the same exact process with our decoupage method. And once all those steps are completed, this is what it's going to look like. Now, the metal part. I don't know, it's hard to see, but the last people who painted this got red all over the metal along the edges and stuff. I guess they didn't tape it off. So I'm going to grab the color Burnt Sienna, I believe it is. If it's any different, I'll put that up here on the screen. And I'm going to take that color and go over that with a paintbrush wherever there is red. And once I get the one side done, I am just going to flip it over and do the same exact thing to the other side, just covering up all those little pieces of red. Now, I did try to get as much of this stuff off prior to this, thinking I could clean it up. I just, like I said, all that sanding and everything, my hands were tired, they were hurting, so I was pretty much done. So I figured let's just do a faux rust technique. And once I get all that painted, I'm going to grab my clear liquid patina, and I'm going to go over all the areas that I put down the paint with that clear liquid patina. And I was going to use the Dark and Decrepit dust from DIY, but I didn't like the color, so I went back to using the cinnamon. Unfortunately, I did not get it recorded, but I do have a video showing where I did this, and I will link that video in my description box if you want to go back and watch it. Just remember, it's an early video, so it's, you know, it's just that. It's an early video. I think I'm getting a little bit better. I do tend to like to talk, and I tried to stop with the talking, but I guess if you guys are going to watch my videos, you're going to like and appreciate my talking and chit-chatting too. I don't know. But anyway, once I get all the cinnamon put on and it's all dried down, I'm going to go ahead and once again grab my clear liquid patina, and I'm going to go over all of my green paint, sealing it in. And I am not going to go over where I put my decoupage down because I'm going to go ahead and use a clear spray paint, and I'm going to seal it in that way just to avoid smudging my ink any. I don't want to take a chance of ruining it because I'm really loving the way that this turns out. So like I said, put the clear liquid patina on the green and take it out in the garage and spray where my decoupage and where I put my cinnamon down over that rusty painted areas and seal all of that in. And once all that is dried down, this is the next day. I decided I didn't like how the edges were painted green and along the sides of my decoupage. I wasn't a fan, so I'm going to grab some cotton lace ribbon. This is just ribbon you can get from the Dollar Tree, or you can also get from Hobby Lobby, I found. But I am just going to cut me off a couple pieces, and I am going to use some Eileen's Tacky Glue, and I'm just going to glue that right here along the sides. I decided not to use a glue gun for this step because I didn't want all those little lumpy bumpies that glue guns tend to leave behind. And then I just use my little silicone spatula to make sure I get up in there and get it all nice and smooth. And once that's done, I'm going to embellish it just a little bit more. I had bought these tags on Whatnot. One of the people I follow had made these, and they sell them 6 for the price. And I thought they were really pretty. It saves me from having to buy some tag material and making my own. And then I'm just going to grab some loose florals that I have in my little floral bin and just kind of figure out how I want this. Wasn't sure if I wanted the daisy with the yellow flower or what. There is a little sunflower on the card, so I figured I would just go ahead and stick with the yellow flower. And I did trim off that backing just a little bit more so that flower would lay a little flatter. And I think I like it like that, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to tie a knot on the top of our tag. And I just do a double knot, trim off any of that excess string. And then I'm just going to grab my glue gun, put a little dab of hot glue there, and push that knot into it. And then I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue our flower down, trimming off that bottom so it will lay flatter. And just stick that covering up that knotted rope. And when I held it up like this, I couldn't get the tag to sit just right. So I decided just to take a little bit of hot glue and I tacked down that tag just a little bit so it would hang right. I didn't get that part recorded, but I just wanted to fill you in. Now I'm going to flip it over to the other side, and I've got some vintage clothespins, and this one right here is actually one that I had cut off the top at some point, but it fits in there in case somebody decides to add a hanger to it. But I'm just going to glue that on the side, and then this project will be done. And I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video and let me know what you think. Which side do you like best? I like both of them. I'm actually thinking about keeping this, but I'm trying to convince myself not to. And I know it's just one project, well, kind of 2 in 1, but that's all I had time for this week. So you guys have a wonderful week, and until next week, bye-bye.